Good morning, everyone. Dean McRae here. Now, yesterday was Remembrance Day, and I actively did not roll out a video because it disgusts me to watch our political class, the parasites destroying this country, get up at these ceremonial times and effectively jerk themselves fucking stupid while we know that they hate the country that our diggers defended. They hate the country that our veterans defended. They hate the values that our veterans defended. So fuck them. I didn't want to come out with anything yesterday. I was far too cranky. Our country, the country as it is, I guess now, which is a pro and a con. We have some amazing, beautiful feats of humanity that have come out of 200 odd years of this particular civilization. Now, some of my Indigenous brothers and sisters will go, well, they've been here for 65,000 years or whatever the story is at any given time. Well, when the criminals from Britain, of which I'm guessing my ancestors were some of, arrived here, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot going on. That's not to say that there wasn't a lot of beautiful culture going on, but there certainly wasn't a lot of beautiful civilization going on, and I do consider there to be a difference. I am a bogan Aussie. I also love my Indigenous brothers and sisters. I do not see us as in any way, shape or form not equals. You'll never find a person on planet Earth who is going to foresee me as somebody who has judged them differently based on the colour of their skin or their sexuality, or even their religion, although I am erring towards, as this Sharia law stuff becomes more and more, not prevalent, but pervasive in our society, I am ideologically very much opposed to anything Sharia law driven being in this country. It can go. But again, a lot of people have started taking notice of these little videos that I've now been making for 15 years in various ways, shape, form or capacity. And I do have a lot of people who are reaching out going, you should think about politics. And I go, fucking think about it. I hate politics. I hate politicians. But if good people with good values, or values that I certainly feel are I think mine in this space are warranted, they're justified, because it's all about Australia. And if we don't get involved, we cop what we cop, and you can feel free to Google the shit out of my political career. It certainly isn't anything that you would see on most of these little parasites' fucking resumes. That's not going to change. I'm not going to all of a sudden start licking the bottom of the powers that be. I'm here effectively because they need an opposition. The Liberal Nationals haven't provided anything fucking close, and a lot of the minor parties, while some are doing better, we do need a valid opposition with a valid vision in this country. I have effectively set up a small organisation called Aspirational Australia. It is not to compete with all the other micro organisations or micro parties. It's not a political party, but it has been set up. There is a strategy in place, there is a vision in place, and we set this up a couple of years ago, but I think it's probably more poignant now than ever that I get this thing up and running. And I will ask you all to sort of participate as I roll out a bit of a plan. Australia needs a 10-year plan for a free, safe and a sovereign nation. Freedom, safety and a sovereign nation. And no, I'm not going to be a polished politician. No, I'm not going to be a statesman, if you will. I'm the out-of-control anti-politician who can see where we're going, and it fucking disgusts me. And I've got the balls to stand up for this country as directly as I possibly can, because otherwise we become the shithole that is currently, formerly once known as Great Britain. And I'm fucked if I'm going to roll over and let that happen. The children in my life, my new baby daughter, my son, my stepkids, my family's kids deserve better. I don't want them to be afraid of walking the streets at night. I don't want them being afraid of machetes being wielded, or governmental guns being at their heads because they have the audacity to live a free, wonderful life in what was once considered a lucky country. I now consider it a country that's ridden its luck into the ground, it's taken the piss, and now it needs to get back to work in some serious, relatively quick ways. But we do need a 10-year plan. I've sketched one out. I've said it over and over again. There are no saviours. There are no, what you see on TV. That's not how this stuff works. This requires you, the citizens, to put aside your differences in most areas. I've seen the freedom movement argue over every petty squabble known to man, which is how they like it. I'm asking you all to take a big, deep breath, and if you want to support One Nation, support One Nation. If you want to support even the Libs Nats, if you want to support the Labor Party, I don't actually care, other than the fact you need to sort of be educated. I want you to support individuals, because I know some of the people that are in the Labor Party are actually quite nice people who mean well. That doesn't mean I'm going to support them. Same goes with people in the Libertarian Party, where my political ideology lies. If they produce a fuckwit candidate, I will not support that fuckwit candidate. I want a genuine connection with the candidates that are being produced. And we know that candidates are mass produced across mass brands, multiple ways, every fucking election cycle. I think I've half got a strategy to get around that, and I'm going to put some really smart people around me to help me navigate this plan. But I do have a bit of a vision for an aspirational Australia. I've always had a bit of a vision for it, and it's about time we started to put it in place. I think we're at a stage in society where if we don't start doing these things and start getting this joint back on fucking track, everything that our diggers went to war for will be like that. The English veteran I shared the other day who said, no, all my mates dying in the world wars was not fucking worth what we've currently got now as a country. I don't want our diggers to have that experience. I never served. My older brother was in Rwanda. My grandfather was, in the World War II. My great-grandfather was in World War I. I don't want them to have died in fucking vain for this joint to become a Sharia law shithole. I don't want my son to be forced into protecting his family from fucking Marxist Sharia law motherfuckers. It's not going to fly. This country deserves better. It needs better. And win, lose or draw, I'm most certainly going to be dying on. Guys, Australia stands at a crossroads. We can continue down the current path. Bureaucratic decay, corrupt politicians, ideological division, foreign dependence, or alternatively, we can start to reclaim our destiny as Australians, as an Australian sovereign, fearless, self-sufficient nation. It won't be easy. That's not what I'm offering you. That's not what I'm talking to you about. But a lot of people are watching these videos asking, well, what are the solutions? Well, I've got a few. And with everybody's help, we can make Australia phenomenal. We can make it the powerhouse that it deserves to be. We can give our children the futures that they deserve to have. We can tuck and tail people who hate this country. No fear, no favour. If you hate Australia, you need to be outed. Bye. See you later. I'm not a statesman. I'm not a politician. I'm a father. I'm an Aussie. I'm a patriot. I'm a libertarian. But I fucking care. And I'm done watching this country take the knee, bend the knee, beg, plead, borrow, and then fucking crap on about climate change and, we're going to be a world leader in destroying our country on behalf of others. Fuck off. No more. This is about building Australian independence. That's what this is about. It's time for a new era. One of strength, built by you and me, the people of Australia. It's our country. We need to build it. We need to take it back. We need to claim ownership of it, take ownership of it. We need to share it with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, for sure. We need to share it with anybody in the world who comes here and wants to make it better. Nothing about Sharia law is better. Nothing. This country was built by working class. It was built by people with vision. It was built by all ethnicities. The ethnicities are irrelevant. Aussie values are what matters. Over a 10-year plan, I want to see us find energy independence. We should have energy independence, and I shouldn't need to explain it to our politicians. We need a low-cost, high-power, high-volume, reliable power network. This shouldn't be brain surgery in a country that has had that for many, many years. We've had one of the finest energy systems in the world, and at one stage we had some of the best prices for power, the most manageable prices in power in the world. And for some reason, these net zero mandates have been fucking rolled out, and we can all speculate on why that is, but the reality is they don't work. All the green bullshit needs to go. Let's build some energy hubs. Let's build some strategy and infrastructure that's going to make sure that Australians have the cheapest power prices in the world. And more importantly, Australian enterprises have some of the cheapest power prices in the world so that they can build, grow and thrive. Energy is what makes the world tick, and we need to become a powerhouse. We need water and agricultural sovereignty. We need to launch the Great Australian Water Grid. We need to link our rivers, build new regional dams, micro reservoirs, and we need to revive our farmland. We need to stop foreign water ownership. I know I'm a libertarian who talks about free markets, but until Australia's right, until our house is in order, sorry guys, no foreign ownership. And even when it is, it will be limited. All right, guys, how do I see this unfolding, and what do I see as a strategy, I guess, to get us there, a vision to get us there? What do I think will work for Australia? I don't normally read off anything really. As you know, I do my videos off the cuff, but I do want to read some points, I guess, to make sure that you guys know that although I'm a hell of a ranter and nobody can quite do a off the cuff promo like I can, sometimes you've got to have a little bit of meat to go with your potatoes. So the 10-year goals that I've sort of outlined for this country, with your help, that I think we can start to head towards and start to achieve. One will be energy independence. We're going to build some low-cost, high-reliability power networks across the nation. We're going to invest in clean coal, gas, and nuclear, yes, along with our hydro schemes. Either they're going to get fucking fixed, done, or they're going to get fucked off. We either make them work or we don't. We don't have these albatrosses across the country pissing away taxpayer dollars. No climate alarmism, that can go. We're going to repeal any net zero mandates and redirect all the funds that are currently being pissed into that to fund regional energy hubs in coal country and rural towns. We're going to make those towns and hubs the joints that power this country and bring back some real iconic Australian capability. We're going to cap retail energy prices by removing green levies and empowering state-based private generation. Now, I know that my libertarian friends' heads will explode at capping retail energy prices, but until we get to the point where Australians are paying less for their electricity than the country's people, outside countries, who are using all of our resources, while ever we're paying higher prices than them, tough fucking shit. We'll wheel that back and we'll have to modify it. And yes, I do believe in a free market, but I also believe that we're currently being screwed by politicians and corporations that are in cahoots to effectively sell our sovereignty to other countries at a far cheaper price. Why should our people suffer while other people are living like kings off our fucking electricity and our power? We need water and our agricultural sovereignty. We're going to launch the Great Australian Water Grid. We're going to link rivers. We're going to build new regional dams. We're going to add micro reservoirs wherever is appropriate. We're going to revive our farmland. We're going to stop foreign water ownership. And again, my libertarian friends, relax. It's part of the process. I haven't gone native. I just know that we need to slow this shit down somehow, and these are the steps that we're going to take to do it. We need to restore farmer control over their own land and production. No more bureaucrats coming out onto your property to tell you there's an ancient frog that's going to stop you from, producing your crops and securing our food security in this country. I know that's going to hurt some people's fucking heads, but that's my priority. We're also going to do our very best to rebuild domestic food processing and fertiliser industries in this country. The fact that we send our stuff overseas, have it produced and send it back is fucking idiotic. That needs to stop, and we need to build up an infrastructure here so that we can be self-sufficient, self-reliable. I'm all for international trade, I'm all for foreign trade, but I'm not doing it from a position of weakness. I want to do it from a position of strength where we can produce that if we need it. Happy to buy yours if it's a better value product for the Australian farmers, the Australian people. If it's not, tough shit, find another buyer because we can look after ourselves. Thanks very much, Jack. Population and migration reform. I want limited, merit-based migration. I want it tied to legitimate Australian skills shortages, not UN quotas, not vote importing. I want people who come here who are going to help us fucking build this country and make it phenomenal. No free rides, no grifters, no feelings. You're not coming over here because, the local restaurant hasn't got enough chefs, because that's bullshit. I want people who are going to come here and help us build this nation into a powerhouse. If you don't fit that, fuck off, stay where you are. Thanks very much, have a nice day. I do want a national ID check for all welfare recipients. I don't want national ID for everybody. I believe that takes away from your human rights. I've said for years and years, there are a couple of types of ways people, as far as I'm concerned, should be able to operate in this country. If you are independently, you have your own means, your own wealth, where mummy and daddy's money, I don't really care. You can do whatever you kind of like. If you're studying, you deserve support. If you're at school, you deserve support. If you're working, running a business, you deserve support. If you're thinking that you're just going to come over here and ride off fucking welfare, no, you're going to jump through some hoops. And after a certain amount of welfare, you're going to be expected to join the military and serve. If you're not at school, if you're not working, if you're not being fucking constructive, we're going to be looking at pushing you towards the military, because our defence is going to require that. Your personal capabilities are going to require some discipline. It's not quite conscription. There are options. You don't want to be conscripted to an army under Dean's vision. Get a fucking job. Get into university, get into TAFE, get into the trades. There are plenty of options. There will be some room there for the disabled. Don't fucking panic. And the elderly, many times I've worked out a plan for that and advertised that. I will do that again, of course. I want to prioritise regional growth with incentives for Australian families to settle and build in rural zones. Now, a lot of those incentives are going to be things like fucking jobs and access to land wherever we can make that. We're going to open DAs up to make it a lot easier for people to buy houses, open land, build houses, and generate that. So there is a plan for that. And this is just me giving a summary of what I'm aiming for and what I want to see in this country. I don't think anybody's going to accuse me of not loving this country, but I look at my kids, the two that are mine and the two that factor into my life. I don't want them growing up in a shithole. I don't want them growing up scared of machete attacks. I want them to have something they can be proud of, a future that they can really, really get excited about. I want every Australian child to lose the helplessness feeling that most of them have. This is why the schools are a fucking disaster. I want these kids to go, fuck, I can have whatever I want. I can build whatever I want. This country is the greatest in the world, as opposed to the shit that we've got now. I want to create economic freedom for small business. I'm going to cut federal departments by 25% and return tax powers to local councils and states. I don't want to hear the local mayors bitching and moaning that they haven't got enough money because, it's been frivoled away further up the food chain. I want them to be held accountable for their budgets. I want them to be held accountable for their spending. And I want them to be held accountable for what taxation levels are going to be. If you can't run a country, a business, an entity with about a 3% running cost, I believe Warren Buffett suggested, I think he's about right. If you're overspent one way or the other by about 3%, you clearly can't fucking count. You can't do your job. So you need to have a good old rethink. And of course, I've got all these policies. I'll put up the written versions. But he's right. These politicians shouldn't get paid while they're pissing your money up the wall. And it's time for them to be held accountable. And I will absolutely be aiming to do that. Payroll tax, gone. Small business tax codes, tax laws, we're going to simplify them. There's only going to be a couple of manoeuvres, not the 124 that currently Australians are subjected to. Cash transactions are protected. There will be no central bank digital currencies. Those pricks have a big enough control over the monetary supply. They don't need to be sticking their fucking nose into the free markets. If you want to use Bitcoin, great, no problem at all. But we don't want governments regulating methods of trade. It's nothing to do with them. There is going to be a national right to work reform. Compulsory union fees isn't going to be a thing. Sorry, guys. There will be voluntary union fees. If you want to join a union, you're more than welcome. Happy to. Not forced. That's bullshit. And effectively, it's a form of mafioso control. Independent contracting will be highly sought after, highly encouraged. And that's sort of a direction that I think everybody should go. More self-responsibility, more direct control over their own output, input, and outcomes, more to the point. So I think that's pretty important as we go forward as a country. Now, I've had great debates with some libertarian friends about infrastructure and manufacturing revival. I've also had some great debates with lefties who just go, oh, we're gonna make more solar panels after we import them from China and assemble them. I do think Australia needs a wealth sovereignty fund, an industrial sovereignty fund that will allow us to, if we're gonna be raping and pillaging people for taxes, I think it's really important that we keep those taxes in our system, in this country for Australians. Currently, most of our taxes are arguably pissed off and pissed up the wall. I want an Australian industrial sovereignty fund which is designed to co-invest in getting steel manufacture, fuel refining, vehicle assembly, ag tech, defence, all up and running. Again, I will go into this policy in more details as we go forward. I'm going to prioritise nation building, rail, dam, port projects over any ideological vanity projects. So your LGBT parade will not be getting any funding under my fucking watch. If you want to privately fund it, you'll be more than welcome to do whatever you want. But you will not be getting one tax dollar under a Dean system. And there are going to be certain amounts of people who are going to go, well, you're never going to be Prime Minister. You're probably fucking right. But you know what? If a few politicians take on a few of these policies, we might just make the world a better place. Alternatively, if enough people think these are good ideas, we can absolutely fucking build something together. I would also like to prioritise defence and national security. We currently are very, very much reliant on the completely nonsensical model of our number one trade partner is China, and our military spends most of its time trying to protect us from China. The other side of the aisle, we rely on the US as being Big Daddy. I'm happy for US to be Big Brother, not to be Big Daddy. It's time for us to become a Big Brother in our own right and get that right. So we need to invest in sovereign munitions, shipbuilding and drone technology. I want to see us. We have some fucking smart people here. We have all the resources we need. So I think it's really important that we get that up, running and driving appropriately. I do think there needs to be a lot more compulsory Australian-made procurement for defence supply chains. Again, my good libertarian friends' heads are going to explode, but we're not going to get to the promised land without cracking a few eggs on the way, unfortunately. And the fact that we import all of our stuff, we ship our steel out. I think the old saying is we mine it, we send it overseas, they send it back in bullets. I think that's something that we need to have a good hard fucking look at and do our best to. Let's rejig our thoughts on that, and let's try and make sure that a large portion of, if there are going to be defence contracts, Australian companies have the first bite at those cherries, first opportunities in those spaces. We also need to strengthen our national cyber and border defences and reduce our reliance on imported military tech. Now, that's regarding the military, not sovereign people. I'm fucking opposed to this internet crap that they're rolling out, and that's all going to be repealed if I'm anywhere near that shitty little White House down in Canberra. I'd like to see family and community renewal. I want to reinforce parental rights, homeschooling freedom, and local school choice. Again, this is a big topic. These are all big topics. But parents own the children, not parasitical governments. If you want to homeschool, you should be eligible to do so. You shouldn't be encouraged, encroached and forced to outsource the education of your children to often well-meaning, but quite often there's plenty of parasites in there, parasitical people who do not certainly have the best interests of the child at heart. They have their political ideologies being drilled into your kids while you and your partner are at work, killing yourselves to pay taxes to fund politicians. So that will be a top priority for me. I also want to provide an extreme amount of tax relief. We all know I'm pretty well anti-tax, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to just slash and burn every tax known to man because, again, it's got to be a bit realistic and a bit pragmatic. But I want tax relief for Australian families raising children and caring for elders. How does that work? Income tax. I'm going to do everything I can to remove it. You earn it, you keep it. All of the middle-class welfare bullshit systems where we're taxing people so that we can give it back to them after we've siphoned $2 out of the 10 to pay the bureaucrats for this money to cycle around, the welfare churn, that's going to be abolished at every step that I can find it. I also will be prioritising funding local policing and rural hospitals and those types of local services before I send one fucking Australian dollar overseas. No foreign aid until Australians are right. Defence housing, veterans housing, they'll get priorities from us and me going forward, as I feel it should be. Australians first, always, every time. Freedom and law. I do want to enshrine a Bill of Rights for Australians protecting free speech, bodily autonomy, and digital privacy. They can shove these digital laws that they're trying to bring in fair up their bum. Bodily autonomy, we learned all about that through COVID, and free speech allows me to say the things that I'm going to say to allow you to know that somebody is championing with, for, and around you. I have no doubt that they're going to tell me that I shouldn't be allowed to say these horrible things. I'm going to say them. And I'm going to try and make it law. It's going to be a basic fundamental right. We don't have one of those in this country. We have implied. We have imaginary. We do not have it enshrined. And I do not want this country to go down the path Great Britain's formerly, the country formerly known as Great Britain's going down. Fuck that. All the hate speech laws are going to be repealed. Hate speech laws are foolish for a lot of ways. Are some of the things said horrible? Yes. Now, there will be a difference there, and incitement to violence is very different to saying, I don't fucking like someone. Imagine Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs fans versus Manly Sea Eagles fans. They say some horrible shit to each other, but it should be allowed. Inciting violence is a different thing. Hate speech is absolute nonsense. All censorship decisions need to be transparent and subject to citizen oversight. With all the modern technology we have now, we can actually have referendums on an awful lot of things awfully quickly. We can absolutely use the modern technology that we have to give people a direct say in how their country is going to be run, directed, and built. I think we should be using this technology for things along the line of these lawmakers and these rules and these directions that the country is going. I do think that the people should have access to, it's very easy. We all have a phone in our hands. We can very easily go, oh, right, that's a new law that they want to propose. That's disgusting. I don't like that. Bullshit. No. Yes. No. And it should be transparent on the Australian government website that says, you know, Senator whoever put up a motion for the following. There were 22 million people who responded via their phone on the app, and they have overwhelmingly disagreed with that option. So thanks very much for your thoughts, Senator, but no, your constituents disagree. We do have the technology, therefore we should be able to do things like that. I think that's pretty important. Now, I've got a couple of other little points that I think are very, very important to roll out for this vision of Australia that I have. Health and mental resilience. We all know that I'm not bowing, begging, scraping, crying my way through life. I do believe we need to build our children up to be far stronger, far more resilient. We need to build our fucking adults up to be stronger and far more resilient. But I want to decentralise health management to state and community levels, reduce bureaucratic waste. The Temora Hospital up here, where I sort of live, where I was born, is about to undergo a revamp. Now, back in the days when a community hospital needed or the community wanted a piece of medical equipment, they'd fundraise to get that medical equipment. It would be driven by passionate locals who would go, our hospital's great, we love our hospital, we're very passionate, we want the best hospital in Australia, for example, and we want an X-ray machine. Again, I'm pulling that out of my hat, but you know, the people in that particular hospital are willing to drive it. The community is willing to open their wallets and do so, which they'll have more autonomy to do so under my tax regime. But they can do that. They can grab that by the scruff of the neck, and they can raise money for cancer patients if they so choose. But they direct it, they drive it, not a heap of bureaucrats coming out of Sydney and Canberra who seem to think they fucking know best for 300, 400, 500 grand a year. I'd like to see these things decentralised and states and communities can run it. We're going to cut that bureaucratic waste at every opportunity. I want to incentivise preventative health, fitness, nutrition over pharmaceutical dependency. We saw that again through COVID. We saw people who, you know, and look, I'm guilty of it. I ran a half marathon, and the biggest training step I took was I took too many bloody multivitamins just to make sure I'd cope. We rely on pills. I'd rather build a healthy, strong, capable, well-nutritioned nation, and we do have the skills, the capability, and the output to do that. So I want to really incentivise preventative health, as opposed to let's get an injection, let's get a needle, let's pop a pill, let's make Australia fucking healthy and strong. There's a reason that we do so well sporting-wise around the world. And we have some great talent that comes through the place. Let's make that better. Let's make our average kids not as fat. Let's make McDonald's a treat, not a way of life. A treat I use loosely. I'd also like to create veteran and farmer-focused mental health programs with real, genuine funding, not just slogans and bullshit. I do my little bit with the Pro Patria Centre here in Wagga. I've been a bit slack on that over the last few months, but fighting one battle at a time, obviously. But enterprises like the Pro Patria Centre in Wagga are phenomenal. We need them rolled out Australia-wide. We need them to be supported to do the work they do for our veterans. These men and women go overseas, they see some horrific shit, and then when they come out, we leave them out to dry. We leave them hanging, we leave them lost. They look, you know, they get no support. And you know, unlike in America where, you know, the citizenry all goes, thank you for your service, and they are somewhat revered by normal people in America. In Australia, we don't have that level of reverence, and I think we need to fucking possibly show a little bit more respect to the men and women that are willing to die for you and your families. We need a culture of courage. And this is going to be an important sort of, I guess, roll up for what I'm talking about here this morning. We've become a culture of cowards. We've become a dependent culture. We've become a culture of people who, when something goes wrong, we look for the nearest bureaucrat, nearest form we can fill out, nearest fucking government agency we can beg, because we don't know what to do, and we're afraid that if we do something, we're going to get in trouble. That needs to go. We don't need to beg useless bureaucrats for permission to do things or to solve our own problems in our own homes. These are our homes. Home ownership needs to be restored in Australia. People care far more about things that they have an active incentive to care about. You care about your own property. You'll care about your own country if you're given a reason to care about your own country. We've had that watered down. It's become shameful to be proud of Australia. Well, I'm fucked if I'm going to be ashamed of Australia, and I'm fucked if I'm going to turn around and let it just go to hell in a handbasket because some cowardly politician tells me I must, or some talking head idiot on the TV. We're going to reclaim pride in this Australian story. We're going to talk about ANZAC spirit. That's going to be the core value that's going to drive this country forward. Mateship, self-reliance. We're going to take this thing by the scruff of the fucking neck. We're going to make Australia phenomenal. We're going to end taxpayer funding for divisive identity programs and ideological activism. Yes, if it's a woke bullshit program, it's gone. End of fucking story. Don't waffle on about you. The most important minority group in the world is the individual. If you are as an individual, that's how I'm going to treat you. I'm not going to look for your ideological group because you know what? Out of every fucking ideological group, there's some scumbag, some well-meaning person, and some complete confused arsehole. Ideological groups do not work. They've proven not to work. The country's a mess because of these ideological groups. You will be treated as you. You'll be treated as an individual, not as some arsehole who identifies as a fucking ham sandwich. That's gone. That's done. Not going to happen. Part of school education, homeschool or standard education will be an element of Australian pride and those stories. It's not going to be in there ragging us off because, generations ago, convicts rolled up here in a ship and the Aboriginals had a tough time. They did. We will acknowledge that, but we will also go, and then they built a fucking nation. And then they built a fucking nation. Government only exists to protect freedoms. It's not here to manage it. It's not here to tell you how to live your life. But I'll tell you what, it's time for us to take Australia back. I know this is a longer video than usual, and I hope you'll take the time to watch it. These policies I'm going to obviously expand and roll out. No, I'm not creating a political party. That's not happening. There's enough of those fucking things rolling around the joint as well. But you will be welcome to join me, and you will be able to actively take part in living your self-reliance and making this country fucking phenomenal again.